Well, I think, Sam, it's one thing to say world leaders are on the side of young people wanting to address their concerns. It's quite another thing to hear from young people themselves about what they are actually thinking about. I want to start with Ali. He sent us a video he's studying in Prague, but he's originally from Turkey, as I say, currently a student. And, well, he gets straight into it, let's say. He has a very, very scathing take on the approach taken by the US president in his address to the General Assembly. Let's not forget, as part of that speech, Donald Trump said the ideology of globalism, the United States no longer stands by that, instead talking up patriotism and the importance of individual states. Well, for Ali, that threatened his entire future. This is what he had to say to us.
Donald Trump calling for patriotism over globalism and throwing around threats all around the United Nations not only isolates the United States further, but also threatens the future of our generation.
So it threatens the future of our generation. I think we're getting other young people who spoke to us, a chap from Ireland who sent us a message saying that this generation, the next generation, will be the most cosmopolitan ever. So world leaders on the world stage talking up individual solutions, seemingly put forward by individual nations. Well, he doesn't think it's going to sit comfortably with the next generation. Let's just move across to Ireland and bring you up. This is Faye. She's also a student in her early 20s, but for her, the issue that she wanted to hear world leaders talking about was the issue of violence against women. This is the video she sent us.
An issue affecting young people here in Ireland is the issue of sexual violence and violence against women in particular. We would like to see the UN General Assembly working more to put pressure on the issue of consent, to have the issue of consent, the conversation started, you know, not just at third level but at second level as well, because education is very scarce here in Ireland on this issue.
So wanting improvements to education now, let's not forget that all these issues that young people raise, obviously world leaders there have a lot of things on their plate, but to hear particularly from young people, it gives you a different perspective. The UN really putting a focus on education, but for them, the big poster launch, if you like, was lifting young people out of poverty through education, making sure everyone was in education or employed by 2030. That did get a lot of people reacting, but Faye wants a specific emphasis on consent and talking about violence against women to be part of this general push for education. Now, someone who was there in New York, let's bring you up. This is Dejan. Dejan is a representative of European young people. He was at the United Nations. You can hear in the background New York going on behind him. It's a little noisier than us here in Lyon this evening. But for Dejan, he wants not just young people to be spoken about. He wants young people to be directly pulled in and involved in the decision-making of the United Nations. This is what Dejan had to say to us.
Here at UNGA, Secretary General of the UN, Guterres, had launched the first ever UN youth strategy on behalf of the UN system. So for me, it is now the turn for UN member states. I'm going to be having my eyes and ears open for addresses from heads of governments to the General Assembly, and I want to hear from them how they plan to share power with young people and how they are going to deliver the rights for my generation.
To share power with young people. Now, that's not necessarily something we heard from a lot of those addresses. But when Emmanuel Macron stood up there on the world stage yesterday giving his address, he spoke up in favour of globalism, global solutions for the problems facing the next generation. Well, Sam, those are just some of the issues that are focusing young people's minds tonight. Whether world leaders are listening to that, well, that's up for debate.